right, Derrick, good morning. How are you? Happy Tuesday. Happy T3 Tuesday, as we call it around these parts. Just got those PPI numbers. How you doing this morning, boss?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Trying to manage my 22 open positions as we're moving very rapidly with this PPI right as I'm sitting in with you. So definitely an exciting morning to do some multitasking, but really happy to be here like always.
Okay, awesome. I completely understand the multitasking. I understand if you've got trades on and things that you need to get to, no problem at all. If you wanted to share your screen, you're welcome to. If you'd like me to just drive because it's easier, I can do that for you as well, no problem. So you let me know what you want to do. I do have a couple of questions for you. I wasn't going to start with the PPI, but I guess maybe we should at this point. What does this print mean for you? And I suppose, how are you going to trade in the short term, given what you just saw here?
Sure. So PPI came in light. The movement on the PPI is never as big or as important as CPI, at least 95% of the time. But this is something that the market really needed right now. We have, in my opinion, three major potential macro risks to this market. Risk number one is policy related with the new administration, just a ton of uncertainty there in regards to tariffs. We're actually seeing a little bit of relief on that this morning with some news coming out that the tariffs might come on incrementally as opposed to all at once. So we were already getting a little bit of relief this morning with the market gap up that was coming from that and the dollar that was gapping down a little bit this morning, which was needed. So that's risk number one. Risk number two is that we're coming into earnings season here. These Mag 7 earnings reports are so important because there's such a large percentage of the S&P and the NASDAQ, specifically with what those reports look like given AI spend and the revenue that is beginning to come in from that AI spend for these Mag 7 companies. I think if those companies miss on their reports, it could represent a very significant risk. And then number three is just specifically coming from a tightening that we're seeing in the bond market and the dollar move. So the TLT here has just been getting absolutely smoked. Interest rates are moving higher. The 10-year got up to 4.8%. If anything, the biggest surprise is that hasn't weighed more on the equity market than it's shown us at this point. That combined with the dollar that's just been totally ripping higher is what I would describe as the third major risk to the market. Now, this morning, we're getting some broad relief. I already mentioned we're getting some relief on the tariff stuff with the headlines that might come in a little bit more incrementally. So the market was already liking that. And then this light PPI, we'll see what happens with CPI, but the light PPI here is definitely a start to help give us a little additional relief on this market. Now, the final thing is, will the gap up this morning hold? We really broke through some support levels on Friday and on Monday yesterday. The SPYs were able to kind of recapture this key 580 level yesterday. We're back up at 585 this morning, but that's just touching into a declining 8 EMA at this point. So some improvement there, but not an all clear sign yet. For the Qs, I'm really watching this 510 level that's getting tested pre-market this morning. I think that's a line in the sand where we can begin to have a little bit of a healing process and get the market back above. And then finally, for the IWM, these are the three major indexes that I pay attention to. It's 218, which we're also back above this morning. So we definitely have an improving picture this morning. Can the levels hold? That is the key question. And the final thing I would say is the VIX. Pay attention to the VIX in conjunction with the market. Where is the VIX trading? The VIX is back below 20 this morning. I think that's a positive for the market. Let's see if it holds below 20. And if you get an acceleration in the VIX beyond the 22 and especially $25 level, then I think that actually would create a further cratering in the market. But the flip side is, if realized vol can start to compress a little bit more again, then this market could recapture a strong underlying bid that brings us right back up to highs.
Okay, that was an excellent breakdown, Derrick. Real quick, trade with Derrick for free in his Pro Desk virtual trading floor, January 14th through 17th. Link is in the chat and in the description. Also have a QR code there on the screen, so be sure to check that out. Okay, really good breakout there. I completely agree with pretty much everything that you said there. One of the things that I noted this morning that I was kind of watching yesterday as I was watching the market trade was we kind of had a change yesterday in breadth. The breadth has been so poor the last several sessions for all of the different indexes. Yesterday was the first day where things looked a little bit different. I think the IWM, the SPY, and the NASDAQ all were green in terms of stocks up versus stocks going down, albeit minorly. And now, like you were talking about, we had that light number there on the PPI. So we'll see if this holds. I'm with you there. And I think that whether or not this holds is going to tell us a lot going forward here. So, okay, so really good stuff. I did have a couple of questions here, not to change tracks too much, but my viewers would not let me out of here alive if I didn't ask you about what the quantum stocks have been doing recently. We talked to Adam Esch about some of these. I want to know, what do you think about this whole quantum craze? Did you trade it, and what are you looking for going forward here?
It's almost as if I pitched you that question ahead of time so that I could stroke my ego a little bit and tell you how great of a trader I am.
Here we go. Let's go.
The quantum short is overall, because I traded so many of them, one of the best trades I've ever had in my entire career. I was short and did very well with RGTI, QUBT, LAES, KULR, IonQ. I feel like I had the whole complex of these things, QBTS. I was short all of them. I was short them on size. This move to me made absolutely zero sense with where they were trading. Now, the tricky part about trading is you could have looked, in my opinion, at RGTI back in mid-December when this thing was trading at $10, $11 and said, this makes absolutely no sense. The stock just went from $1.50 to $10 here. The company in the first 3 quarters of 2024 has had $8 million in revenue and is trading at like a $2.5 billion valuation, something like that. And if you began to just short in mid-December at $10, you were getting your face ripped off by the time this thing got up to $20 and still only had $8 million of revenue in the first 3 quarters of 2024, but now was trading at like a $5.6 billion valuation. So the move made absolutely no sense to me, but the timing on it when it comes to these squeezes and these types of stocks can be very, very difficult, because if you just blindly short something because you think it doesn't make any sense, especially if it's a low float stock, which luckily RGTI and most of the names I focused on were not low floats, especially if you're trying to do this in something that's low float, it could be career ending. So timing is really important. Game planning is really important. I remember I had shorted RGTI back here on like this December 18th move, but I got all out of it into the next day pullback on December 19th. And then it gave this next wave higher. And I started to really, really layer into these on the short side. We saw this shooting star come in. Our RGTI was my heaviest one, even though I was in all of these. So that's why I'm just focusing on this chart.
Sure.
We had this shooting star come in on the upside on January 6th, where this was really struggling with the $20 level for a couple of days in a row. We had some weakness on the 7th. And then we had Jensen Huang come out that evening and say, hey, I think quantum is a great idea for the future, but it's 20, 30 years away. And then these things just got absolutely, absolutely crushed. I mean, this RGTI is basically a pre-revenue company. Like I said, $8 million in revenue in the first 3 quarters of 2024. The interesting thing about it is I'm actually long right now. I flipped long for just a cute little potential bounce back trade. I don't have nearly the same amount of conviction or size as I did on the short. But now that we've had 3, 4 really big down days in a row where these things have cratered from, just using RGTI as an example, $20+ down to $6, and there's a little bit of a support area around this 6 or a little bit below it, I'm looking to see if I can get a few dollars snapback on these things, with my saying that I genuinely don't believe in them. I think that these things belong lower than where they're currently trading even now. But the way that markets work is they work in periods of time where you get these little bounce backs even on the way down. And after 3 really big down days in a row, I want to see if I can get a little bit of a bounce back in this RGTI to somewhere between $8 and $9. I'm also long QUBT for a similar bounce back. I want to see if I can get a little bit of a bounce back in this thing, maybe back to $9. I've got SOUN. This was another one that I was short, not a quantum play, more of an AI play, but it was trading similarly with these quantum names. Did well on the short side. I'm long this morning, looking for a little bit of a bounce back. Maybe I can get a move to 14 quarter, 14.50, something like that. So not being too greedy. I genuinely don't believe in them, but these things have created phenomenal trading opportunities, I think, on both sides of the market.
Yeah, I think that you're totally right there. So would it be fair to say then that you kind of stalked this short based on just the financial position of the company, right? You talked about a pre-revenue here. There's market hype and all of that that's driving it. But would you say that the valuation is like the primary metric here, where you're like, this is just way too skewed, and I'm going to try and play a regression back to the mean? Is that fair?
Yeah, so the way that I broadly describe my approach to trading is 85% technical analysis, 15% fundamental analysis.
Okay.
I like to utilize an understanding of fundamentals to just give me an idea of what's going on with the market, of what's going on with individual companies. Do they belong, whatever that means, at certain prices, at certain levels? Do the fundamentals justify that or not? But like I was saying, I would argue that in mid-December, the fundamentals didn't justify RGTI to be at $10, yet it went to 20 plus before it actually broke. So that's where the technicals come in. The technicals tell you the timing, the risk management, the game planning, how to maximize reward. So technicals, I think, are the most important thing. But if you can combine that with a little bit of a fundamental thesis, it gives you greater conviction on your trades when they properly set up.
Okay, that's very, very well said. And you had highlighted there Jensen Huang coming out and saying, yeah, really, quantum, it's 15 to 30 years before we find something, quote, very useful, end quote. Those are the words that he used. Unsure if you caught the D-Wave or the QBTS CEO on CNBC defending it, saying, hey, quantum is here right now. We have some customers that are using quantum computing right now, like MasterCard, which I believe was one of the ones he cited. Yeah, I mean, they're doing like 2 million revs. This company still cash flows negative, 16 million a quarter. I mean, I think that's a really heads up. Like, to be able to look at the price really kind of trading up and saying, nah, fundamentally, this doesn't make sense. Now I'm having technicals flash like the shooting star that you just talked about. I think that's really that's an awesome trade thesis here. One of the viewers here asking about RGTI. Ask him about RGTI. Is it trading to 68.1 on the Fibonacci? So I guess the broader question here is, you were talking about technicals. Do you use things like Fibonacci levels or retracements at all for planning a trade?
So I don't use Fibonacci's specifically. I do pay attention, broadly speaking, to percentage retracements in trend, because I think that's just important to know. As it pulled back, a quarter of the move, a third of the move, half the move, 3/4 of the move. Like I think that's like a general good thing to pay attention to, though I don't necessarily believe in like magical numbers based on the fibs that are going to be super important to stocks. So I'm a relatively simple technical analyst. I mainly just use Japanese candlesticks, volume, and a couple moving averages that are important to me, mainly the 8 and 21 EMA. Also, we'll look at like a 200 simple moving average. And primarily that's it for my own trading. Now, that's not to say that I don't pay attention to other things when traders on my team communicate them. I'll pay attention to an RSI or a MACD or a fib level or any other information that a trader can provide me, because I view that as what I describe as a layer of probability. If I am already looking at RGTI coming into a potential support level between like $5.80 and $6 to see if I can get a bounce trade off that after 4 down days in a row, and then a team member, or in this case, one of your viewers says, hey, that corresponds with the whatever Fibonacci level, I'll go, oh, great. That means I have a whole extra layer of probability, a whole extra piece of information that's on my side of the trade, which therefore just means that I have a higher probability of success. If there is another successful trader that sees the same thing that I see in a different way, that just gives me greater conviction overall in the trade.
Okay. Just really, really lights out stuff here, Derrick. Appreciate that. Trade with Derrick for free in his Pro Desk virtual trading floor, January 14th through 17th. That's today, folks. Starts today. Link is in the chat here, and then also a QR code on the screen. Okay, I'll get you out of here on this, Derrick. Are you preparing at all for the earnings season, which starts this week with the banks? I know you talked a little bit there about some of the Mag 7s. Those don't start till a little bit later this month. I think it's January 29th for Meta and Microsoft, and then January 30th for Apple. We get the bank stocks starting this Wednesday before the open with JP Morgan, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs. Are you preparing for this at all? Are you looking to trade this at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the banks are a main focus of mine, but I do trade them. I think that the banks are like a little bit of a tease for the beginning of earnings season, just to start getting everybody a little bit excited. Not necessarily the most important, well, they're pretty important companies, but not necessarily the biggest movers that are out there that you're necessarily going to be day trading every day. But it's the hype factor. It's like, all right, earnings season is starting. We got the financials, and that's going to lead into all the really big important companies that I'll almost certainly be trading. I'll be paying attention to these financials. I want to see if this XLF can get back above $49, which I think is an important level. I think that Bank of America has been trading pretty well. I think that Citi has been trading particularly well. The 74 level is one to pay attention to. There's a ton of relative strength there. The retest of $71 yesterday was probably very viable on a retest of like a previous resistance level that now held as support. So yeah, let's be excited for the beginning of earnings season. I love it.
Okay. Real good stuff, Derrick. Again, thank you very much. Trade with Derrick for free is Pro Virtual Trading Desk. QR code on the screen. Derrick, thanks so much for the time here. Great job on those quantum names. Can't wait to hear what the next theme is. Until next time, have a great one. All right, my man?
Thanks for having me. I'll see you next time.